And hello, everybody. You're very welcome to a new episode of Redefining Cybersecurity here on ITSPmagazine. This is Sean Martin, your host. Or as you know, if you listen to the show, I get to talk to cool people about cool things, a lot of which are triggered by things I see on the internet. And I spend way too much time, I think, on LinkedIn. Other people on TikTok. I'm on LinkedIn all the time looking at what's going on. And my good friend Kris rides. Kris, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, Sean. Yeah, good to see you and speak again. We've known each other for a long time, so it's nice to be
I
doing this.
know it's been a few days, and I'm glad to have you on. And it was one of your posts that inspired me to have a chat with you. And I think it's been way too long, so I'm excited to do this. And I think the topic is going to be fun for folks as well. Looking at LinkedIn, funny enough.
Yeah,
So
somewhere where I'm the same as you. Spend way too much time on it.
I know. Serves a purpose, I guess. Serves a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm not messing around too much. But anyway, before we get into the topic, a few words, Kris, about who you are, what you're up to at Tiro, and otherwise.
Yeah, so Kris Rides, founder of Tiro Security back in 2012 in LA, which is how me and Sean know each other. Tiro Security is a cybersecurity staffing and professional services firm. So professional services side, we do things like pen testing, risk assessments, that sort of stuff. And on the staffing side, all the usual retain search, contingency, all cybersecurity and GRC and contract work, as well as helping cybersecurity solution companies build their go-to-market teams. So solely focused on cybersecurity. And because of what I do, I guess is why I spend so much time on LinkedIn. It makes me feel like I'm working, so I feel less guilty about it than I do sort of hanging on other social media forums, which I don't tend to use much anymore. So it's how I get my fix, I guess.
That's right. It's the LinkedIn fix. I find that it isn't just scrolling. I actually stop and look at something and look at comments and see what's going on, which is another reason that this struck me, because I'll set the stage a little bit here. So basically, you did a post that said, "Here's a profile. Something's a little wacky about it. You submitted it as a potential fake account to LinkedIn, and then the comments started coming in."
Yeah.
I think you asked a few questions. What is the end goal of a fake LinkedIn profile? Does it have value? Can it be bought and sold? Sort of scams. So I think some of those were answered in the comments. But I think it's an interesting thing, because, well, just like if you're looking at Twitter, right, and accounts there, I don't know. Do you trust it? Are they manipulating people? What's the goal with a fake LinkedIn profile? I mean, you're not there to manipulate somebody politically or otherwise. I don't know. Maybe you are. Are you looking for a job, trying to sell a fake job? I don't know. So what was the premise behind posting this? I'm sure that this isn't the first one you've seen.
No.
So why post? Why post now?
I guess I've seen a lot of them, and I guess this one sort of stood out. So the first thing happened was this LinkedIn profile commented on one of my posts, but the comment didn't make much sense. So it wasn't relevant didn't seem relevant to the actual post that I put out. And it wasn't something that read like, oh, okay, LinkedIn is a global platform, and so we have people that English isn't their first language commenting on things. And it didn't strike me that this was a language mismatch. It was somebody just putting a random comment on there that didn't make a whole lot of sense. And so that tracked me back to take a look at this profile. And I think what stunned me was I was looking at somebody that had 28,000 followers. So this wasn't somebody with a couple of hundred people. This wasn't something that had only just been put out there. This clearly was a profile that had been on LinkedIn for a number of years and had somehow amassed all these followers, and yet was posting things that didn't make a lot of sense. And so that was the first thing that kind of struck me and thought, right, let me dig a little bit deeper into it.
Yeah, and as you're describing it, I'm picture. I've had requests from people, and I've seen profiles that just don't look right. And there's one in particular, and I'm gonna call out Marco, my co-founder here, because there's somebody that continues to comment on
Right.
his posts. Like anytime he posts something, ooh, Marco, that sounds really interesting. How did you come up with? And then he just he or she or it,
Yeah.
the machine regurgitates a piece of what Marco posted. And it's like, and Marco's like, this guy is really annoying me. And I'm like, it's probably not necessarily that guy. It was a guy's profile picture anyway.
Right. Yeah, of course.
But and then there's another. I don't know. I'm part of some of the groups as well. And there's one group. No matter what you do, you get 3 or 4 or 10 people that just reply or comment on the post and say, "Let's connect." Yeah, but you do nothing in cyber, and I don't know. It just seems weird. So lots of funny stuff going on. So so you posted this, and were you trying to get people to just recognize that this is happening, or what was going on?
I think what most of my posts sort of on their drive is I love conversations and I love to hear different people's point of views. And you know, when you work from home, I miss going to the office even a couple of days a week. I miss having some of these conversations about things, right? And you know, usually I might ask a few colleagues and be like, "Oh, look at this that I found," and but I'm not sitting there. You know, I'm not going to grab my wife. She's not on LinkedIn. She's not interested in that. So it's like a just interesting to have these discussions about things that I've kind of missed, I guess. And so a lot of my posts tend to be things where I say I've seen something that would spark a conversation usually, and I try and have that conversation on LinkedIn. And I'm really interested to see people's sort of answers. So I think I put on there, you know, what were the things that I saw that kind of gave me that feeling this doesn't seem right. And then what did they see, and then as you mentioned, a list of questions which were around sort of what's the end goal for somebody like this? You know, are these kind of accounts bought and sold? And I actually did a little bit of digging. Like I actually connected with some people and had conversations with people that had recommended that person. So they'd endorsed them. So the person had a lot of endorsements for really random skills. And of course, really random people as well. There was no rhyme or reason for the connections that they had. All of the endorsements were for people that did all sorts of kind of different jobs that you'd be like not even worked yet. I'd looked at one person that endorsed them on 10 different things, and like was the only person to endorse them in one area. And I looked and I was like, that person's in a different country and doing a completely different job, and they've never worked in the same places. So what's creating this? And so it kind of sparked quite an interesting conversation and dug into some of the things I know that have been going on. And I've seen people use these different tools, and I'm seeing even more common stuff nowadays, the stuff that you're talking about with Marco. Lots of, you know, I get connected and have a lot of emails from people that run AI tools that are going to manage your LinkedIn, are going to help build your network. And, you know, is that regurgitating, like taking AI, AI looks at your post, it briefs it down, it creates a question to then post in the comments, and it does it all for you. So, you know, there's all this sort of stuff going on. And yeah, so I've had plenty of sort of comments there that sparked conversations, things that I've seen that's going on. Might be interesting. I talked about endorsements. That was one of the things that really raised some like question marks, other than the picture of sort of a youngish person that looks like it's produced by AI, and yet the person's saying they've got 25 years experience, but they must have started their job when they were 10, if that was the case, or they look really good. Like I need their plastic
like me.
Right.
I started when I was 10. Geez. So you said you connected with some of the endorsers.
Yes. Yeah. I connected with a couple of people, and I had conversations with a lady out of England, and I said to her, "You've endorsed this person. Like, how do you know them?" And I didn't think, I'd sent a few messages like that, and obviously a lot of people don't respond, but this person did. And I had a brief sort of email conversation with her, and she'd said that she had used a marketing tool a few years ago. And I tried to find out which one. She stopped replying at that point, but basically she'd paid for some marketing software that kind of auto connected. And she said she never endorsed anybody. It's just something that it did. I don't know how much of that I believe, but I mean, it's quite possible that there's these things called pods that were very common at least 5 years ago. And I know that some of our competitors that have got great sort of really good followings on LinkedIn were part of pods, because they started 5 years ago, and all of a sudden their followers went up and they had all these comments, and I was like, how the hell is this happening? You know? And when I dug into it, there were these pods of people, and what you would do is you join a pod, and whole companies. So like a recruitment company would have a pod for themselves, like global recruitment companies, and then they would automatically like each other's comments, like each other's posts, make comments on them. There were clearly like agreements going on between that. You like my post, I like yours. And I don't know how much of it was automated. I would imagine quite a lot of it was. And so it drove up engagement, it drove up posts, it drove up followers for people really quickly. Now, I don't know how useful that was in terms of for our jobs. I'm all about networking. I've been on LinkedIn for years and years, over 10 years, and it's taken me that long to build the network I've got. And I know the network is quality. I'm sure there's a few people hiding in there that good people like you, Sean, and people I don't know so well. So not saying that I haven't got fake profiles in there, but certainly I never engaged in the pod thing. And the pod thing, it's kind of, you can identify it because it's people from all sorts of different backgrounds that wouldn't traditionally follow you. You know, what interest have they got in cybersecurity? Are they even in recruitment? Are they in pen testing? If not, why are they following me, right? And I could look at other people and I could see very quickly that was what they were doing. And so, yeah, it was really interesting to speak to this lady. She reported the profile. She took all her endorsements off, said to me she's got no idea how she automatically endorsed the person for all of this stuff. And I suspect she worked in marketing. So I suspect that she probably was trialing out a tool that would help build something like that. And it's insane to think that stuff's going on. And I think a lot of the people that have a lot of followers are because of that. And it's not necessarily fake profiles. I think fake profiles and stuff have come along a little bit more since then. But certainly at that time, that's how people built their followings.
Yeah, because a lot of that what you just described isn't necessarily, she's not fake.
No.
we can assume, right?
Yeah.
But there's probably a lot of stuff that profile did that wasn't authentic, including perhaps this automated endorsement. Interesting.
Yeah, it's no, I think like obviously there's a lot of benefits to having that, and somebody's either playing the long game, or perhaps the person was called something different before. And these accounts, I've learned, I already thought they were being bought and sold, but I've learned through some of the comments on there that it's very common. And the more followers you've got, the more that account is worth. Now, nobody's told me values on this sort of thing, but the interesting one with this one was, what I could tell is they had 28,000 followers, and they would post something and they would get two likes on it and no comments.
Very little engagement.
Yeah. And with that, and in that kind of engagement, those followers aren't engaged. So the second thing to wonder is how many of those people on there are real people, or, right. I wonder, I really wonder, how a lot of this stuff's being managed, and how LinkedIn could even manage this. Is this a real person? Is it a company of people that all use this one profile for different things? Is it being used for nefarious reasons, scams, that sort of stuff? Or are they building it to eventually do that?
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind, I don't know. I mean, a gazillion scenarios one can dream up, but not that a tool can scrape all this information anyway, but perhaps using the followers to identify susceptible profiles.
Yeah,
And
you can do.
make those targets rather than those that don't accept the fake requests and whatnot. Now there was somebody put a link. This isn't a promotion for Trip Bar, though I love the guys and gals there. But they posted some common LinkedIn scams. So I'll quickly run down the list. They have 5 illegitimate contact requests. Kind of what we didn't talk about that as well, we talked about it, but that's not what this case was necessarily. Yeah. Fake job offers. I've heard of that where actually you can get this job, just pay to submit your resume, that kind of stuff. Phishing and whaling was another. Tech support ruses, which not quite certain. I have to read that one a little more. And advanced fee inheritance schemes. I have a payout for you.
Yeah.
That one still lives on, in LinkedIn as well. So I know I just tipped you off to that particular article as well. But what are your thoughts on some of the risks? Obviously, you with the work you do, you look at some of this stuff as well, both from a vulnerability perspective for organizations, and then also just from you're looking for people and you want to find the right people.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of the times you'll have some sort of contact information connected to your account. And once you're connected with somebody, they've got access to that. So you might have an email or even a telephone number. Some people do. You should definitely check what you've got, because when somebody connects, you can be giving them that information. So certainly there's probably one of the reasons, or one of the things they're looking to do, is to take that information, build on it, and use that. So that would be common. The job scams, putting out an advert, getting people to respond. It's work from home. You'll need a laptop and this, and this. Here's a website. This is where you've got to order it from. Okay, you're going to pay for it, and then you're going to send me the receipt, and I'm going to reimburse you via PayPal or however. And it never gets reimbursed, and the website's a fake website. So we see and hear a lot of that. And actually, even sadly, recently I was connected with somebody that's in my network that's in security, and they sent me a message just saying, "Oh, really good news. I've managed to get myself something, and so I'm going to be coming off the market, but I appreciate your advice." I give them a bit of advice on resume stuff, and they'd seen some of my posts and videos. And then they came back to me like a few days later. I just said, "Oh, congratulations. What are you going to be doing?" And then they came back to me 2 days later and told me it was a scam. Hopefully they didn't actually fall for it by sending the money. I don't know that or not, but it was exactly that, the job scam. So we do see stuff like that. Certainly LinkedIn, the more people you're connected with, the more people's profiles you can see. So secondary degree connections, you can actually see a lot more information. And so if you don't have many connections, you see less people. So there's a definite benefit to having 28,000 followers, because that allows you to then see the people that are connected with them. So it could be used for plenty of scams. And the interesting thing, actually, you said, I had a couple of people mention, like pen testers mention, that they have fake profiles that they use for OSINT. So certainly it's being used. And I can tell you, on a recent pen test we did, obviously since the MGM hack and the vishing of help desks and things like that, we've seen an increase of not only our standard pen testing, but asking to do more phishing, vishing, smishing, sort of targeted stuff. And I can tell you, we did something for a client where it is hard to scrape the data. And so we built something that would take screenshots of all of the staff that worked for the company we were pen testing for. And so we screenshotted all of the data. We then did it so it cut out LinkedIn, because ChatGPT doesn't like you reading information. And then we ran it. And I will say, we ran it with permission from the client through ChatGPT. All of the information was public information. But basically, we ran it through, and we got ChatGPT to build us an Excel spreadsheet, and also create
the org chart.
for them. Yeah. So it didn't create an org chart, but it created a whole list of people that we could then fish that were down on LinkedIn as their employees. So titles, job titles, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, so you did that at scale. I've heard stories of, even not necessarily, we're kind of off the topic of fake accounts, but if you have 28,000 followers, you can do this at scale, I guess, a little more than some others. But looking at the profiles to understand what kind of systems they have in place and things like that. And so I don't know, I guess kind of bring it back to this fake account. If it's a fake account with a purpose and it is using ChatGPT or something else to create conversations to find out, okay, who's in IT, who's in security, are they running SAP or Microsoft or what is it? I'm going to start a conversation so I can learn more about the environment perhaps and target my attacks accordingly. So I've heard some of that taking place.
Yeah, it's certainly doing things to build trust. I mean, I also connected with somebody, so they actually this account shared 3 resumes over the course of while it's been live. And so I took a look at those resumes. I could then track back who the person was because all of their details were on there. Not telephone numbers. I can't remember their email addresses were, but I could track back who the LinkedIn was. It didn't connect to them, but it said, hey, this is somebody that's looking. They're a really good person at doing this. You should. So it was doing this stuff to build trust that it was helping the market. I connected with the person and the person didn't know they didn't know them. They'd never worked with them, didn't recognize the account. And I said, oh, do you remember like how they got your resume? And so they went back, checked, and they messaged them. They'd put out that they were looking and they'd messaged them to say, hey, would you like me to share, I have X thousand followers. Would you like me to share your resume on there? And the person, of course, had said, yes, they're looking for a job. And didn't realize that, what they were helping potentially was a fake account to build trust in our industry. And I will say the person didn't work in security and the other 2 people they shared didn't work in security either. So they were just sort of generally helping people, which is why I felt like it was likely, a fake account. I think the actual account itself was IT and business development anyway. So it wasn't a specific cybersecurity one. But again, it was all about building trust and they were doing things that you would expect somebody to do that. So yeah, I thought it was fascinating. And I thought there was a whole bunch of stuff when you started digging in and looking into it that sent red flags up. So yeah, it was good. It was an interesting one, and it created a really good conversation, which is the bit I loved most.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm scrolling through some of the comments. I think there's a nation state thing with a dark reading article linked there. Let's see. Yeah, resume harvesting. That was one we just talked about. Let's see what else is here. Fake socials for OSINT. I think we touched on a lot of this stuff here. I think the other point that some folks are saying, the point that you made about the contact information and the other personal information that isn't available until you're connected. Here's one, and we didn't talk about this yet, I don't think. Not just fake people, fake companies.
Yes.
And the one somebody mentioned Ohio State, and the fake account created the Ohio State,
right,
or the other way around. Fake companies posting fake jobs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'll just say you can't do anything much to control this stuff. Like every now and then I'll check Tiro security and I'll look. And there was a period of time where there was a fake profile claiming to work for us. And I had a conversation with them over LinkedIn and said, hey, I got a sense of humor. So what are you going to do? Right. So I connected with the person and I was like, I sent them I should say I didn't connect with them, which would then make it look like they really did work for us. But I sent them a message and was like, hey, have I hired a new member of staff I knew nothing about? Because I'm so sorry. I'm terrible. What kind of CEO doesn't know all of his staff, especially when you run a small business, right? And the person responded back in sort of quite a jokey way about that, and like, oh yeah, you've spotted me. And I was like, what's your goal? Like, why choose us? And they were like, oh, well, just, I want to show that I'm working in security, and I use this account for a lot of things. I will say that I got the feeling that the person was probably using it for nefarious reasons. I didn't get the feeling like it was one of those genuine, not even genuine mistake, but a genuine effort of trying to do something good. I felt it was probably the opposite. And I was like, well, look, it would be great if you disconnected. And I said, look, if you're going to choose a company, you probably want to do what everybody else does, and choose a company that's so big they don't realize who's a member of staff and who's not, right? Because I'm going to see it and I'm going to know you're not. But the interesting thing about it is I will occasionally see emails come in where somebody's taken that fake member of staff, scraped the data or taken the name, created an email that using our email format that they think we use, right? And every now and then I'll get these emails come through to names that I've never seen. Go to junk box and I look and I'm like, who is that person? And they're trying to sell a product, dear so and so. And I'm like, we've never had anybody in 12 years. I've never had anybody that by that name that's worked for us. And so like companies, it kind of establishes that they put that out there. Somebody scrapes the data, and so there's a big follow through and a cycle of what's going on every time somebody does something like that, which is, it's very interesting. But you never know. When I could get an email from somebody saying somebody you work for me has ripped me off or scammed me or something like that, right? And big companies probably worry less about that, but small companies that rely on their branding and the things they do, like us, that could have a huge impact. I then have to address that and through nothing that we've done. And so it's an interesting process, and it's interesting to see these things go on. And I'm very upfront. I'll contact people and have conversations with them and try and find out a bit more, because it's just interesting, right? I'm always got that thirst for knowledge.
Yep. Well, I think for me, and I love having these kind of conversations with you, Kris, and I appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad you posted that. I think I want to leave folks with some ideas. I mean, the first takeaway for me here is it seems like fun. I think at the very beginning, we joked that we spend our time here.
Right.
I might want to spend a little more time, not just exploring, but actually investigating stuff. Right. Just understand what's going on in some of the ways that we talked about today. And I think both personally and as an organization, I think it's probably important to do that. So I don't know, any thoughts on what people should take away from what we talked about today?
I think, we always say trust but verify, right? And that's very valid here. I think trust your gut, because certainly for me, and the more experience you've got, just if something doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't right. So do a little bit of digging into it. Don't have to spend a huge amount of time. I think I would love to read an article on this. I wish I would have more time. Maybe I could write a blog or something. I just don't have the time to investigate. But I think something like this would be make a really interesting investigation, especially if you can get some of the people that's doing this to talk to you about what they're doing. If you can get them to engage with you and talk about that, I think that would be really interesting. I think the takeaways for me is, look for the things that make you think, well, this is a bit strange. And you've seen the adverts, and I'm presuming most people have maybe seen some of the TV adverts out there that have this person standing next to you saying, hey, if you give me $100 now, I'm going to give you $1,000 later. And you wouldn't trust that person in real life. And so those adverts are great, because that's absolutely exactly the same as what we're talking about here, right? This is online. Be suspicious, and treat it like they are, if they were in a room with you offering to do some of this stuff, giving you a job with no interview, asking you to go and buy your own equipment, hopefully you'd be like, seems a bit strange. Would I hand over $1,000 cash for somebody to send me some equipment and I don't even know them? Probably not. So I know there's a lot of stuff that builds on this, but trust your instincts, start looking into it. And also don't be embarrassed to ask people. A lot of people in the security industry, say, I've got this thing going on. It's real strange. And just also, no, don't be embarrassed. Like, none of us are immune to this stuff. At some point we'll have another conversation, but I've been scammed before, as a business, not thankfully out of a lot, which is probably one of the things that made me less suspicious, was that the end goal didn't seem to add up. Like, the amount of money we were scammed out of didn't add up to the amount of time it took for somebody to put into it. But that's a whole nother conversation we'll have at some point. Definitely trust your gut. My gut was telling me in that instance that something was off. I did a little bit of digging, probably not enough. But anybody can be impacted by this. Look for things. In this case, 28,000 followers but no engagement. That's strange. Unusual comments on things that don't make sense. They don't actually go with the post. Pictures that seem like they're AI generated. Pictures that don't go with the 25 years experience that they might have. All of these things are reasons why you probably should, not trust, and certainly dig a little bit deeper. So that's stuff I would say.
Yeah, no, I love it, Kris. I love it. And I'm going to put a call out. Whoever's listening to this, perhaps they have some tips and advice as well. Because I think kind of to your point, we've all had our own experience in some way or another, and spotting it, responding to it, how do we deal with it? I think if anybody has experience and wants to share, send me a note, send Kris a note, and we'll try to pull something together again. Yeah, and if you want to come back and talk about your scam, I'd love to have you, and if you can share whatever you want to share there too. I think anything to help people learn would be great.
It's a pretty crazy story, and recently I had somebody that wanted to practice forensics, and so I said to them, "Here you go. I'm going to give you all this information. Go at it." And because it wasn't worth the time, like the amount of time it would have taken me to do anything about it wasn't the value of the time that had been scammed out of, like the value of the money that had been scammed out. And so yeah, like somebody went and done some digging on it, and actually the person that had done it, tracked them down, got a name, found that they'd probably done it multiple times. In American person running an American company, shut down the companies, had no criminal record, and had actually passed away. So I don't know whether sort of out of desperation that somebody was doing this for a few years to try and get money, knowing that they were unwell, or I don't know. I felt an element of sadness for somebody. Somebody said to me, bad things happen to bad people, and maybe that is the case, but I've also known that bad things happen to good people as well, right? So yeah, it was an interesting one to go through. Yeah, maybe at some point we'll talk about that again and go through a bit more detail. But I have to be careful. I don't want to. I feel like there's probably family members that had no idea what this person was up to, and quite honestly, I don't want to horrible.
I wouldn't want names or anything anyway. But just more the experience. But if and when you're ready, and there's a learning to be had, we'll definitely have you back on. In the meantime, Kris, we'll see you in Vegas.
Yes. Yeah, see you soon. Yeah, I'm speaking at B-Sides, Las Vegas, so I'm there Tuesday, probably there Wednesday as well. I'm going to probably hit SquadCon on Wednesday, and then obviously I live here, so I'm here all week. But yeah, lots of chance to see you and a lot of other people as well. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's higher ground there at B-Sides as well, right? Where people come together.
I'll be in there. I've got a panel in there and then a workshop as well. So
nice one.
Route to CISO workshop. So people that are looking to either become a CISO, get into the industry, come on down. I've got a couple of CISOs, experienced CISOs that are actually going to come and join me and help answer sort of some of those questions. So I think it's just me on the schedule, bringing sort of my experience from a recruitment point of view, but I've got some really experienced CISOs that are going to be stepping in, chatting as well. Some people that you probably know. Special guest.
What's that?
I said special guest. I've got Mel Reyes is coming down. And then there's Ray Espinosa as well. You know Mel well. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's going to be wearing an outrageous suit, as he always does. Right. But yeah, and I think Ray Espinosa is going to be coming down as well. To be
awesome. Yay, Ray. can't read. Yay, one, not the other. No, but super cool. Super cool. I look forward to seeing you and hanging out and having good old chats. And always thrilled to talk to you. And thanks for everything you do for the community. Yes, in general, and for getting people jobs too.
Thank you, mate. I love it. I love being part of the community. So it's an easy one to do.
Yeah, awesome, man. All right, Kris. Well, thanks a million. Thanks for joining me here, and everybody, thanks for listening and watching this episode. Of course, I'll put a link to the post in question, the article I referenced, and please do. If you're listening and have a story you want to share, send me a message on this post or DM me, and we'll make something fun happen. All right, thanks everybody. Keep well.